The crowds at Nexus 7 parted like cosmic dust before a solar wind as Aurelia Solaris moved through the bustling spaceport terminal. At nearly 8 feet tall, her massive Solarian form towered over most species that frequented the interstellar hub. Golden energy pulsed beneath her translucent skin, following the intricate patterns of her circulatory system and casting a warm glow that betrayed her emotional state. Currently, a mixture of resignation and carefully controlled frustration. She had grown accustomed to the wide berth others gave her, the startled glances, and the whispered comments that followed in her wake. Her enhanced hearing caught fragments of conversations as she passed. Genetic anomaly, a Crexian merchant hissed to his companion. Solarians engineered her kind for deep space gravity work. Dangerous, came the reply. I heard one of them lost control and collapsed an entire mining outpost. Aurelia kept her gaze forward, her expression neutral. After 3 years stationed at Nexus 7 as the lead gravitational engineer, she had learned that correcting misconceptions only led to more uncomfortable interactions. The truth, that she had perfect control of her abilities and had saved the station from catastrophic gravity failures on multiple occasions, made little difference to those who feared what they didn't understand. She reached the central atrium, a vast open space where the artificial gravity was intentionally lighter, allowing for the comfort of various species. Holographic displays showed arrival and departure times, diplomatic announcements, and emergency protocols in 17 different languages. The space buzzed with 1,000 conversations, the background noise of commerce and travel that never ceased on a station that served as a nexus point for 7 major interstellar trade routes. Aurelia's destination was the engineering level, 17 sections below, where she would begin her daily inspection of the gravity cores. The work was solitary, which suited her fine. The cores responded to her innate abilities, recognizing the golden energy that flowed through her body as something akin to their own carefully calibrated fields. As she waited for the transport tube, she noticed a cluster of her fellow Solarians standing nearby. Unlike her, they were of standard height and coloration. Pale blue skin with hints of green at their extremities. Their energy patterns, visible only to those who knew what to look for. Pulsed with the traditional Solarian rhythms, controlled, efficient, and utterly conventional. Their leader, Terran, noticed her and whispered something to his companions that elicited quiet laughter. Aurelia had once attempted to form connections with the Solarian contingent on Nexus 7, hoping for some sense of cultural familiarity if not acceptance. Their rejection had been polite but absolute. To them, she was an embarrassment, a reminder of experimental genetic programs that mainstream Solarian society preferred to forget. The transport tube arrived, its doors sliding open with a soft pneumatic hiss. Aurelia stepped forward, aware that despite the tube's capacity for 20 passengers, she would likely ride alone as usual. The other waiting travelers found sudden interest in their comm devices or remembered urgent business elsewhere. She was surprised, therefore, when a human male stepped into the tube alongside her without hesitation. He was tall for his species, perhaps 6 feet, with olive-toned skin and dark hair cropped close at the sides but fuller on top. His eyes, a deep brown with flecks of amber, met hers directly, an unusual occurrence in itself. More surprising still was what happened next. As the tube doors closed, sealing them in together, the human smiled at her. Not the nervous grimace she occasionally received from those forced to share space with her, but a genuine expression that reached his eyes. "Pardon me," he said, his voice carrying the distinctive accent of Earth's northern Americas. "I believe I'm lost. Could you direct me to the diplomatic quarter? I was told it was on level 5, but the station layout has me completely turned around." Aurelia blinked, momentarily thrown by the casual normality of the interaction. "The diplomatic quarter is indeed on level 5, but in the station's outer ring. You'll need to take this tube to Central Hub, then transfer to the radial transport." "Thank you." The human extended his hand, another surprising gesture. Marcus Clark, Earth Diplomatic Corps, just arrived on the O700 shuttle. After a moment's hesitation, Aurelia accepted the handshake, careful to modulate her strength. Her enhanced musculature could easily crush the bones in a human hand. Aurelia Solaris, gravitational engineering. That explains the beautiful energy patterns, Marcus said, gesturing to the golden light flowing beneath her skin. I've read about Solarian gravity specialists, but I've never had the pleasure of meeting one. The tube slowed as it approached the central hub, and Aurelia found herself uncharacteristically reluctant for the brief interaction to end. There had been no fear in this human's eyes, no disgust disguised as scientific interest, just simple, professional courtesy. If you're free later, Marcus continued as the doors opened to the bustling hub. Perhaps you could recommend somewhere to eat. Station food guides are never as reliable as local knowledge. The request was so unexpected that Aurelia responded before her usual social caution could assert itself. The Cosmic Palette on Level 3 offers surprisingly authentic cuisine from 17 systems. They even have a decent attempt at Earth's Thai food, though I'm told the spice levels are conservative. Marcus's smile widened. That sounds perfect. Would 1900 hours work for you? I should be finished with my initial briefings by then. Yes, Aurelia heard herself say. 1900 hours. As Marcus stepped out of the tube with a nod of farewell, Aurelia remained still, the doors closing before she remembered to exit herself. The tube continued its journey downward as she processed what had just happened. A human had looked at her without fear, had spoken to her as an equal, not a curiosity, had invited her to share a meal. The golden energy beneath her skin brightened perceptibly, flowing faster with the increased tempo of her heart. For the first time in longer than she cared to remember, Aurelia felt something dangerously close to hope. The Cosmic Palette lived up to its name, a panoramic restaurant occupying a full quarter of Level 3's outer ring. Its transparent exterior walls offered diners a spectacular view of the surrounding space, the glittering sprawl of Nexus 7's docking arms, the constant traffic of ships arriving and departing, and beyond them, the vast swirl of the Carina Nebula that bathed everything in soft purples and blues. Aurelia arrived precisely at 1900 hours, half convinced that Marcus would not appear. She had spent the afternoon moving through her duties in a state of distraction, questioning her decision to accept the invitation. What could a human diplomat possibly want with her? Was this some form of elaborate joke? Or worse, did he have some ulterior motive related to her work with the gravity cores? She stood just inside the entrance, aware of the subtle shift in atmosphere that always accompanied her arrival in public spaces, conversations pausing momentarily, glances darting in her direction before deliberately turning away. The restaurant's host, a Verulian with iridescent scales and impeccable manners, approached her with professional poise. Engineer Solaris. The host greeted her with a respectful incline of their head. Will you be dining alone this evening? Before she could respond, a familiar voice called her name. Marcus Clark was making his way toward her from the bar area, still dressed in the formal blue-gray uniform of the Earth Diplomatic Corps, but with the collar now open, giving him a more relaxed appearance. I hope I haven't kept you waiting, he said as he reached her. The orientation briefing ran longer than expected. Apparently, there are 16 different greeting protocols I need to memorize before tomorrow's reception. I've just arrived, Aurelia replied, noting with surprise that several nearby diners were watching their interaction with undisguised curiosity. It occurred to her that she had never been seen in the company of anyone at a social venue on the station. The Verulian host, recovering quickly from their own surprise, led them to a table positioned near the transparent exterior wall. The table was designed for mixed-species dining, with adjustable seating that accommodated Aurelia's height and build. Once they were settled with menu interfaces glowing softly before them, Marcus leaned forward with genuine interest. So, you're a gravitational engineer. Does that mean you're responsible for keeping us all from floating away? The question was asked with a lightheartedness that invited rather than mocked. Aurelia found herself responding in kind. Among other things, Nexus 7 has 3 primary gravity cores and 7 auxiliary systems. My team ensures they remain balanced and operational. Your team? Marcus selected a glass of earth wine from the menu. The order transmitted instantly to the kitchen systems. I got the impression earlier that you work alone. Aurelia hesitated, then decided on honesty. My team consists primarily of automated systems and maintenance drones. Few organics choose to work directly with the cores. Because of the danger? Because of me. The words emerged with more bitterness than she had intended. Conventional Solarians find my existence uncomfortable. Other species tend to share that view. Marcus's expression remained open, curious rather than judgmental. Yet here you are, holding together a station that's home to over 50,000 beings from across the known galaxy. Seems like an odd way to treat someone so essential. Aurelia selected a Solarian fermented beverage from the menu. The universe rarely distributes gratitude equitably. True enough. Marcus smiled as their drinks arrived, delivered by a hovering service drone. Two inequitable universes, then, and the unexpected connections they sometimes allow. He raised his glass, and after a moment, Aurelia raised hers to touch it gently, a human custom she had observed but never participated in. As they settled into their meal, Aurelia found herself relaxing by degrees. Marcus asked intelligent questions about her work, sharing in return stories of his diplomatic missions to various worlds. He had a gift for observation and a self-deprecating humor that made his occasional cultural missteps into amusing anecdotes rather than sources of shame. My first assignment was to the Hadrian colony, he recounted as they finished their main courses. I spent 3 weeks preparing for their formal greeting ceremony, practicing the traditional 16-step approach to their Council of Elders. What no one told me was that they'd adopted an Earth handshake as their official diplomatic greeting a month earlier. There I was, performing an elaborate ritual dance while they stood waiting with extended hands. Aurelia found herself laughing, the sound surprising her. The golden energy beneath her skin pulsed brightly with her amusement. Your energy, Marcus noted, his eyes tracking the flow of light. It responds to your emotions? Yes. Aurelia had spent years learning to moderate these displays, but tonight she found herself less concerned with concealment. It's a side effect of the genetic modifications. The energy is actually a visible manifestation of the same forces I manipulate when working with gravity fields. It's beautiful, Marcus said simply. Before Aurelia could respond to the unexpected compliment, a loud voice interrupted from nearby. Well, if it isn't our outsized engineer, attempting to pass for normal. Terran stood beside their table, accompanied by 3 other Solarians from the station's diplomatic contingent. His energy patterns flickered with sharp spikes of contempt, poorly disguised as camaraderie. And with a human, no less. He continued, his gaze shifting dismissively to Marcus. I suppose when one is engineered rather than born, one can't be too selective about company. Aurelia felt the familiar cold weight of humiliation settle in her chest, dimming the golden light beneath her skin. She had known this public outing was a mistake, had known the fragile normality of the evening was an illusion. Before she could formulate a response, Marcus spoke, his tone conversational but with an undercurrent of steel that hadn't been present before. You must be Terran, he said, surprising both Aurelia and the Solarian delegation. Engineer Solaris mentioned you might make an appearance, something about your predictable attempts to compensate for professional inadequacy through public displays of poor manners. Terran's energy patterns flared with shock and anger. You dare! I dare quite a lot, actually. Marcus interrupted, still seemingly relaxed but now radiating a subtle authority that commanded attention. One of the benefits of representing Earth's interests in this sector, another is having access to comprehensive files on all station personnel, including performance reviews, incident reports, and psychological evaluations. He smiled pleasantly up at Terran. Yours makes for particularly interesting reading. I especially enjoyed the notes about your repeated failures to qualify for advanced gravity field training, the same field in which Engineer Solaris excels. Terran's companions shifted uncomfortably, their energy patterns showing confusion and embarrassment. Terran himself seemed momentarily speechless, his patterns chaotic with conflicting emotions. I suggest, Marcus continued in the same pleasant tone, that you find another dining area. My meal with the station's most qualified gravitational engineer is far too important to be interrupted by junior diplomatic staff. For a tense moment, Aurelia thought Terran might escalate the confrontation. Instead, with a final glare at her, he turned and stalked away, his companions following hastily in his wake. Aurelia stared at Marcus, reassessing him completely. That was unexpected. I apologize for speaking on your behalf, Marcus said, his demeanor shifting back to the more casual friendliness of earlier. It's a professional hazard. Diplomats are trained to control conversational dynamics. Are diplomats also trained to access confidential personnel files? Aurelia asked, suspicion now tempering her earlier warmth. Marcus had the grace to look slightly abashed. Not typically, no. But I did review the station's key personnel profiles before arrival. Standard procedure. I'm considered key personnel. You maintain the systems that keep everyone on this station alive, Marcus pointed out. I'd say that qualifies as key. Aurelia studied him with new interest. There was clearly more to this human than his easy manner suggested. The casual confidence with which he had handled Terran spoke of experience with confrontation that went beyond diplomatic training. Who are you really, Marcus Clark? She asked directly. His smile turned rueful. Exactly who I said I am. Earth Diplomatic Corps, but perhaps with some additional qualifications that aren't included in my public profile. Such as? Marcus glanced around, then leaned forward, lowering his voice. Would you be comfortable continuing this conversation somewhere more private? Your quarters, perhaps, or mine? The invitation hung between them, weighted with potential meanings. In another context, from another person. Aurelia might have interpreted it as something more intimate, but the sudden seriousness in Marcus's expression suggested his motivations were more complex. My quarters are in the engineering section, she said after a moment's consideration. They're designed for my specifications and have enhanced privacy protocols. Marcus nodded. Lead the way. As they left the restaurant together, Aurelia was acutely aware of the stares following them. Whatever happened next, she knew that her carefully constructed routine on Nexus 7 had been irrevocably disrupted by Marcus Clark's arrival. And she wasn't entirely sure that was a bad thing. Aurelia's quarters occupied a unique position within Nexus 7's engineering section. Unlike the standard residential units assigned to most station personnel, her living space had been specifically modified to accommodate both her physical dimensions and her unique physiological needs. The ceiling height was extended to 9 feet, the furnishings reinforced to withstand her enhanced strength, and the entire space was enveloped in a subtle containment field that helped regulate the gravitational energy constantly flowing through her body. As the door sealed behind them with a soft pneumatic hiss, Aurelia activated the privacy protocols with a gesture toward the control panel. The lighting adjusted automatically to a spectrum that complemented rather than competed with the golden glow emanating from beneath her skin. Impressive, Marcus commented, taking in the space with an appraising eye. I've never seen quarters with their own dedicated power routing. Aurelia raised an eyebrow ridge, surprised again by his observational acuity. The independent power system wasn't obvious to anyone without specialized engineering knowledge. A necessity rather than a luxury, she explained, moving to the small preparation area to offer refreshments. If station power fails, the containment field would collapse. The results would be uncomfortable for anyone nearby. The energy would discharge? Potentially. She handed him a glass of water, the only Earth-compatible beverage she kept stocked. During my initial training, I accidentally overloaded 3 gravity simulators before learning proper control. Marcus accepted the glass with a nod of thanks, then moved to the viewport that dominated one wall of the living space. Unlike the panoramic views offered in public areas of the station, this window looked inward toward Nexus 7's central core, a massive cylindrical structure housing the primary systems that kept the station functional. Beautiful, in its way, he observed. Most people only see the outer face of stations like this, the commercial areas, the diplomatic quarters, the tourist attractions. They forget there's this whole other world keeping everything running. Most people prefer to forget what makes their comfortable lives possible, Aurelia replied, standing beside him at the viewport. It's easier than acknowledging their dependence on systems and people they fear. Marcus turned to face her, his expression serious. That's partly why I'm here. Aurelia, those systems, and the people who maintain them, are becoming increasingly important to Earth's interests. You still haven't told me who you really are? Officially, I'm the new assistant attaché to Earth's diplomatic mission on Nexus 7. He set down his water glass and straightened slightly. Unofficially, I'm an intelligence operative with the Earth Defense Force, assigned to investigate potential vulnerabilities in key interstellar infrastructure. The confession should have alarmed her, but Aurelia found herself unsurprised. It explained his unusual knowledge and the controlled confidence he had displayed when confronting Tehran. And I qualify as key infrastructure, she asked dryly. You qualify as someone with access to and understanding of critical systems that certain parties might target. His tone remained professional, but his eyes held genuine concern. There have been incidents at 3 other Nexus stations in the past 6 months. Subtle sabotage of gravity cores, disguised as system failures. Aurelia felt a chill that had nothing to do with the regulated temperature of her quarters. There have been no unusual incidents here. That we know of, Marcus qualified. But Nexus 7 connects trade routes that are vital to both Earth and Solarian interests. If someone wanted to disrupt those routes or apply political pressure, the gravity cores would be an effective target. Aurelia finished his thought. A catastrophic failure would not only destroy the station, but create a localized gravity well that would make the surrounding space unnavigable for months. Marcus nodded grimly. Exactly. My assignment is to identify potential security weaknesses and help implement countermeasures before any such attempt can be made. Why tell me this? Aurelia moved away from the viewport, her energy patterns flickering with agitation. If you suspect sabotage, why reveal your cover to a potential suspect? Because I've reviewed your file extensively, including parts that even station administration doesn't have access to. Marcus followed her, maintaining a respectful distance but refusing to let her retreat from the conversation. I know about the Solarian genetic engineering program that created you. I know you were designed specifically to interface with and control advanced gravity technology. And I know you were abandoned by that program when political priorities shifted. Aurelia felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with the transparency of her skin. The details of her creation were not public knowledge, and she had worked hard to keep it that way. How could you possibly? Earth intelligence has been monitoring the Solarian Union's advanced research programs for decades. Marcus explained, not out of hostility, but concern. Some of those programs push boundaries that affect all spacefaring species. He hesitated, then added more gently. We also know that you chose to use your abilities to protect others rather than leverage them for personal advantage. Your service record is exemplary. That's why I'm trusting you with the truth about my mission. Aurelia studied him, searching for deception and finding none. The human's directness was disconcerting after years of carefully navigating the veiled prejudices and political maneuverings of station life. What exactly do you want from me, Marcus? Partnership, he answered simply. Your knowledge of the gravity systems combined with my security expertise, together, we might identify vulnerabilities before they can be exploited. Partnership, she repeated, the word carrying unfamiliar weight. I'm not accustomed to working directly with others. I've noticed. A hint of his earlier warmth returned to his expression. But isolation makes for poor security protocols. Even the most capable individuals have blind spots. Before Aurelia could respond, a piercing alarm cut through the room, followed immediately by the station's emergency broadcast system. Attention all personnel. Gravity anomaly detected in core section Alpha. This is not a drill. Engineering staff report to emergency stations. All non-essential personnel proceed to designated safety zones. Aurelia's energy patterns surged with sudden intensity, the golden light beneath her skin flaring bright enough to cast shadows. That's not possible. I checked the core systems myself 3 hours ago. Marcus's casual demeanor vanished completely, replaced by focused alertness. Sabotage? Or catastrophic system failure? Aurelia was already moving toward the door, her mind racing through possible scenarios. Either way, if the primary core destabilizes, the entire station is at risk. "I'm coming with you," Marcus stated, his tone making it clear this wasn't a request. Aurelia paused only briefly. Under normal circumstances, she would have rejected any interference with her work, especially from someone without specialized training. But if Marcus was right about deliberate sabotage— "Stay close and follow my instructions exactly," she said as the door slid open. The gravity fields near a destabilizing core can shred an unprotected organic in seconds. Together they moved swiftly through corridors now flashing with emergency lighting. The station's carefully modulated gravity already beginning to fluctuate in subtle ways that most inhabitants wouldn't notice but that registered clearly to Aurelia's enhanced senses. "The fluctuations are increasing in amplitude," she noted as they entered a restricted access tube that would take them directly to the core section. That suggests deliberate manipulation rather than mechanical failure. "Can you counteract it?" Marcus asked, his breathing controlled despite their rapid pace. "Not remotely. I'll need direct access to the core interface." The tube deposited them at the entrance to Core Section Alpha, a massive chamber dominated by the central gravity generator, a spherical structure 20 meters in diameter, suspended within a complex network of energy conduits and control systems. The chamber should have been staffed by at least 4 technicians. But as the doors slid open, Aurelia saw only empty workstations and flashing warning indicators. "Where is everyone?" Marcus asked, immediately scanning the room for threats. Emergency protocols would have evacuated non-essential personnel, but the core team should be here. Aurelia moved quickly to the main control interface, her fingers dancing across the holographic displays as she assessed the situation. The system logs show a controlled shutdown command issued from the station commander's office, but there's no corresponding authorization code. "Someone spoofed the command signature," Marcus concluded, moving to one of the auxiliary terminals. "Can you override it?" "I'm trying, but the system is locked in its shutdown sequence." Aurelia's energy patterns intensified as she connected more deeply with the interface, her unique physiology allowing her to sense the gravity fields directly. "The containment protocols are failing. If the core goes offline without proper sequencing—" "Boom," Marcus supplied grimly. Not an explosion, a collapse. Her voice tightened with concentration. The artificial gravity field would implode, creating a localized singularity that would tear the station apart from the inside. Marcus abandoned the terminal and moved closer to her. "What do you need?" "Manual override through direct interface." Aurelia gestured toward a sealed chamber adjacent to the main core. "I need to physically connect with the core and stabilize the fields while the system resets." "That sounds dangerous." "Extremely," she acknowledged, already moving toward the chamber. "The energy discharge could kill a normal Solarian instantly. Even with my modifications, I've never attempted a full connection during active destabilization." Marcus caught her arm, his grip surprisingly strong. "Wait, I might have something that can help." He reached into his uniform jacket and withdrew a small device, no larger than his palm. It was unlike any technology Aurelia had seen before. A silvery disk with a pulsing blue core. "Earth Defense Force prototype," he explained quickly. "Gravitational shield generator. It creates a bubble of stabilized space-time. We've been developing it to protect ships during FTL transitions, but it might help contain the energy discharge during your interface." Aurelia stared at the device, then at Marcus. A new understanding dawning. "You weren't just sent to investigate possible sabotage, you're field testing new technology." "Two birds, one stone," he admitted. "But right now, let's focus on preventing this station from collapsing into a singularity." The chamber's warning indicators shifted from amber to red, the final stage before catastrophic failure. "Activate your device," Aurelia instructed, making a split-second decision to trust this human and his experimental technology. "I'll need to be inside its field while connecting to the core." Marcus manipulated a series of controls on the disk, and a soft blue glow emerged, expanding to create a visible bubble of energy approximately 3 meters in diameter. Ready when you are. Together they entered the sealed chamber, the atmosphere inside noticeably thicker as the gravity fluctuations intensified. At the center stood a specialized interface terminal, designed specifically for emergency interventions by gravity specialists like Aurelia. She placed her hands on the interface pads, closing her eyes as the terminal established a direct connection to her nervous system. The golden energy beneath her skin surged in response, flowing outward through her palms and into the system. "The shield is holding," Marcus reported, monitoring his device. "But the power draw is significant. I'm not sure how long it will last." Aurelia barely heard him. Her consciousness was expanding into the gravity core itself, sensing the chaotic patterns of energy that threatened to collapse into a destructive singularity. The sabotage was elegant in its simplicity, a cascading shutdown sequence that appeared routine but was timed to prevent the normal safety protocols from engaging. With careful precision, she began to counter the destabilization, extending tendrils of her own gravitational energy to reinforce failing containment fields and redirect power to critical systems. It was delicate work, like trying to halt an avalanche by precisely placing individual snowflakes. Through the haze of her expanded awareness, she sensed Marcus moving around the chamber, interfacing his shield device with the secondary control systems. The blue energy field began to pulse in rhythm with her own golden aura, creating unexpected harmonics that actually enhanced her control of the failing core. "The shield is synchronizing with your energy patterns," Marcus called out, his voice sounding distant through her altered perception. "It's amplifying your connection to the core." Aurelia couldn't spare the concentration to respond verbally, but a tendril of golden energy reached out to brush against the blue field in acknowledgement. The touch created a momentary surge of shared awareness, a flash of Marcus's focused determination and underlying concern for her safety bleeding through the technological interface. With the additional stability provided by the shield, Aurelia pushed deeper into the core systems, identifying and neutralizing the sabotage protocols one by one. The process was exhausting, drawing heavily on her physical reserves, but gradually the chaotic energy patterns began to stabilize. "Core stabilization at 60%, she managed to report, her voice strained with effort. "Initiating emergency restart sequence. Shield power at 30% and dropping." Marcus countered, his fingers flying over his device's controls. "We need to accelerate the process, or we'll lose containment when the shield fails." Aurelia made a decision that went against all her training and instincts. Instead of carefully unwinding the sabotage protocols, she gathered her remaining strength and launched a massive surge of gravitational energy directly into the core's primary control matrix. The effect was immediate and violent. The chamber shuddered as competing gravitational forces collided, creating ripples of distortion that warped the very space around them. Only Marcus's shield, now flaring bright blue with the strain, prevented them from being torn apart by the conflicting fields. For 3 agonizing seconds, Aurelia thought she had made a catastrophic mistake. Then, with a subsonic pulse that they felt rather than heard, the core system rebooted completely. Emergency power flooded into the containment fields, and the destabilization pattern collapsed. "Core stabilization at 92% and rising," Aurelia announced, sagging against the interface terminal as the immediate danger passed. "The automatic systems can handle the rest." Marcus's shield flickered and died, the prototype apparently exhausted by the strain. He caught Aurelia as her knees buckled, supporting her weight with surprising strength for his smaller frame. "That," he said with a shaky attempt at his earlier humor, "was not covered in my diplomatic training." Aurelia managed a weak smile, the golden energy beneath her skin dimmed to a faint glow by her exertions. "Nor in my engineering manuals." Their moment of relief was short-lived. The chamber's doors, which should have unlocked automatically once the emergency passed, remained sealed. The control panel displayed an external override in effect. "We're locked in," Marcus observed unnecessarily, already moving to examine the panel. and communications are blocked. Someone doesn't want us leaving or calling for help. The saboteurs, Aurelia concluded, forcing herself to stand upright despite her exhaustion. They must have realized their initial plan failed, which means they'll be implementing a backup. Marcus removed a small tool from his boot and began dismantling the door panel. We need to get out of here and warn station security. Aurelia closed her eyes, extending what remained of her gravitational senses outward. There are at least 3 individuals in the main core chamber now. Their energy patterns are unusual, not Solarian or human. Can you identify the species? She concentrated harder. Varian, I think. Their bioenergy has a distinctive harmonic. Marcus's expression hardened. That confirms our intelligence. Varian extremists have been behind the other Nexus Station incidents. They believe controlling interstellar trade routes will give them leverage in territorial disputes. They underestimated the difficulty of sabotaging this particular gravity core. Aurelia noted with a hint of professional pride. They underestimated you, Marcus corrected, continuing to work on the door mechanism. Most stations don't have someone with your unique abilities monitoring their systems. The compliment, delivered matter-of-factly while he worked, caught Aurelia off guard. She was unaccustomed to having her differences framed as advantages rather than anomalies to be tolerated. The manual release is disabled, Marcus reported after another minute of effort. We'll need to find another way out. Aurelia surveyed the chamber, her gaze settling on a maintenance access panel near the floor. The service tunnels. They run throughout the core section for emergency repairs. Together they removed the panel, revealing a narrow tunnel barely large enough for Aurelia's frame. Marcus went first, using a small light from his uniform pocket to illuminate the way. Aurelia followed, her larger body scraping uncomfortably against the tunnel walls. They navigated through the maintenance network for nearly 20 minutes, guided by Aurelia's knowledge of the station's engineering layout. Eventually, they emerged into a secondary control room, currently unoccupied. We need to contact station security without alerting the saboteurs, Marcus said, quickly assessing the available communications equipment. Not possible from here, Aurelia replied, checking the room systems. All communications are being routed through the primary core chamber, where your Varian extremists are currently stationed. Then we go directly to the station commander. Marcus checked a small device on his wrist. According to the station schedule, Commander Drill should be in the operations center on level 1. That's 7 levels up, through potentially hostile territory. Do you have a better suggestion? Aurelia considered their options. Actually, yes. We bypass the normal transport systems entirely. She moved to a maintenance terminal and entered a complex series of commands. A section of the floor retracted, revealing a narrow shaft extending upward through the station's infrastructure. Maintenance gravity lift, she explained. Used for moving heavy equipment between levels when the main transport systems are offline. It's powered by the auxiliary cores, which should still be functioning normally. Marcus peered dubiously into the shaft. How exactly do we use it without equipment? In answer, Aurelia extended her hand, golden energy beginning to flow more strongly beneath her skin as she tapped into her reserves. I create a gravitational envelope around us. The shaft's existing field will do the rest. You have enough strength left for that? His concern seemed genuine rather than doubtful. Enough for this. Yes. She didn't add that doing so would likely leave her completely drained. A vulnerability she wouldn't normally reveal to anyone, much less someone she had known for less than a day. After a moment's hesitation, Marcus stepped close to her. I trust you. The simple declaration, delivered without qualification, affected Aurelia more deeply than she wanted to admit. She extended her gravitational field around them both, creating a bubble of controlled energy that harmonized with the shaft's existing systems. Together they stepped into the open shaft and rose swiftly upward, carried by the interaction between Aurelia's energy and the maintenance field. The journey through the station's hidden infrastructure revealed glimpses of systems and structures that few ever witnessed. The massive power conduits feeding the life support systems, the water reclamation networks, the environmental control chambers that maintained the delicate balance required for multiple species to coexist. By the time they reached level 1, Aurelia's golden glow had dimmed to a faint flicker. Her energy reserves nearly depleted. Marcus supported her as they emerged from the maintenance shaft into a utility corridor near the operations center. "Almost there," he encouraged, his arm steady around her waist. "Just a little further." They had taken only a few steps when the station's alarm system activated again, this time with a different, more urgent tone. "Attention all personnel. Unauthorized access to weapons systems detected. Security breach in progress. All security teams report to designated defensive positions. This is not a drill." Marcus's expression darkened. "They're moving to their secondary objective. If they can't destroy the station, they'll try to seize control of its defensive capabilities." "To what end?" Aurelia asked, forcing herself to keep moving despite her exhaustion. Nexus 7's weapon systems are powerful enough to disable or destroy ships in the surrounding space. They could disrupt trade routes, hold vessels hostage, or worse. They turned a corner and found themselves facing the operations center entrance, and a group of 3 Varians in station maintenance uniforms, clearly not authorized personnel. The aliens' distinctive ridge-plated skin and multifaceted eyes made them immediately identifiable despite their disguises. The Varians spotted them simultaneously, their hands moving toward concealed weapons. "Diplomatic immunity," Marcus announced loudly, straightening to his full height and displaying his credentials. "Earth Diplomatic Corps, lower your weapons immediately." The lead Varian, distinguished by elaborate facial ridges that marked high status in their culture, hissed a command in their native language. The other 2 hesitated, clearly uncertain about confronting an Earth diplomat directly. Aurelia, recognizing their momentary indecision, gathered the last remnants of her gravitational energy. With a carefully controlled pulse, she created a localized distortion that pulled the weapons from the Varian's hands, sending them clattering to the floor several meters away. The sudden display of power startled the infiltrators enough for Marcus to act. He moved with unexpected speed and precision, incapacitating the first Varian with a series of targeted strikes that suggested advanced combat training far beyond standard diplomatic corps requirements. The remaining 2 Varians recovered quickly, one lunging toward Aurelia while the other attempted to retrieve their weapons. Aurelia, despite her depleted state, managed to extend a weak gravitational field that slowed her attacker just enough for her to sidestep his charge. Marcus dispatched his opponent with efficient brutality, then immediately turned to assist Aurelia. Together, they subdued the remaining Varians just as the operations center doors opened and Commander Drill emerged, flanked by station security personnel. "Engineer Solaris, Diplomat Clark." The commander's confusion was evident. "What in the 7 hells is happening on my station?" "Sabotage and attempted takeover, Commander," Marcus replied formally, seamlessly shifting back into his diplomatic persona despite the unconscious Varians at his feet. These individuals and their associates tampered with the primary gravity core and attempted to access weapons systems. Engineer Solaris prevented catastrophic core failure through direct intervention. Commander Drill, a seasoned veteran with 20 years of station management experience, assessed the situation rapidly. "Security, take these intruders into custody. Full biometric restraints and separate holding cells." He turned to Marcus and Aurelia. "You 2, with me, I need a complete briefing immediately." As they followed the commander into the operations center, Aurelia felt Marcus's hand brush against hers, a subtle gesture of reassurance. Despite everything they had just endured, she found herself more aware of that brief contact than the chaos surrounding them. Something fundamental had changed between them in the gravity core chamber, a connection forged through shared danger and unexpected trust. Whatever happened next, Aurelia knew her carefully isolated existence on Nexus 7 had been irrevocably altered by the arrival of this unusual human diplomat. The debriefing with Commander Drill was thorough and exhausting. For 2 hours, Aurelia and Marcus detailed the events from the initial core sabotage through their confrontation with the Varian operatives. Station security reports confirmed their account. A total of 7 Varian infiltrators had been identified and apprehended. their sabotage attempts thankfully contained before irreparable damage could be done. What I still don't understand, Commander Drill said, reviewing the security footage from the core chamber, is how they bypassed our screening protocols. Variants have distinctive biosignatures that should have triggered multiple alerts. They used genetic masking, Marcus explained, displaying data from his wrist device. Advanced technology that temporarily alters surface bioreadings. We've encountered it in other incidents across the sector. Aurelia, who had been quiet for much of the debriefing, her energy reserves slowly regenerating, spoke up. The important question is whether this was an isolated incident or part of a larger pattern. Unfortunately, we believe it's the latter. Marcus confirmed. Earth intelligence has been tracking similar attempts at Nexus stations throughout this sector. The Varian extremist faction responsible sees control of major trade hubs as a means to force concessions in ongoing territorial disputes. Commander Drill's expression was grim. Then Nexus 7 remains a potential target. Yes, Marcus agreed. But we now have an opportunity to implement enhanced security measures. The prototype shield technology I deployed during the crisis showed promising results when integrated with Engineer Solaris's unique abilities. Aurelia glanced at him sharply. This was the first he had mentioned any potential ongoing collaboration. What exactly are you suggesting, Diplomat Clark? The commander asked. A joint Earth-Solarian security initiative. Marcus replied smoothly. Using Engineer Solaris's gravitational expertise combined with our prototype technology to create an integrated defense system that would make Nexus 7 virtually impervious to the kind of sabotage we witnessed today. I have not agreed to any such initiative, Aurelia interjected, her golden energy patterns flaring slightly with surprise and indignation. Marcus met her gaze directly. No, you haven't. But you've seen how effective our combined approach can be. The shield technology amplified your natural abilities in ways neither of us anticipated. Commander Drill looked between them thoughtfully. I must say, the potential benefits are significant. Nexus 7 is a critical hub for both Earth and Solarian interests. Enhanced security would serve everyone's purposes. Except perhaps mine, Aurelia noted dryly. I am a gravitational engineer, not a security operative. You're also the only one who prevented a catastrophic failure today. The commander pointed out, your unique abilities make you invaluable to this station's continued operation. Before Aurelia could respond, the operations center's alert system chimed. The tactical officer at the main console turned to Commander Drill with evident alarm. Sir, we're detecting multiple vessels entering the system. Varian signatures, heavily armed. Reinforcements for their failed infiltration team, Marcus concluded grimly. They must have been waiting nearby for confirmation of success. The tactical display showed 5 Varian vessels approaching Nexus 7 at combat speed. Their weapon systems already powering up according to the sensor readings. Battle stations, Commander Drill ordered. Activate defensive shields and prepare to repel hostiles. Commander, Aurelia said suddenly, an idea forming. The station's standard shields won't withstand a concentrated attack from multiple Varian warships. We're aware of that, Engineer. Drill replied tersely. But they're all we have. Not necessarily. She turned to Marcus. Your prototype shield technology, could it be scaled up? Marcus caught her meaning immediately. Theoretically, yes. The gravitational stabilization field could be amplified through the station's existing emitter network, but it would require an enormous power source and a control mechanism sophisticated enough to maintain field integrity across such a large area. I could serve as that control mechanism, Aurelia stated, her decision made in that moment. My neural structure was designed to interface with complex gravitational fields. If we route the shield generator through the primary core, I could extend the field to encompass the entire station. That kind of direct interface at full power. Marcus shook his head. The energy discharge could kill you. Not if you're there to stabilize the harmonics, she countered. Our energies synchronize in ways neither of us fully understands yet. Together, we might generate a shield, powerful enough to repel the Varian attack. Commander Drill looked between them. clearly weighing the desperate gambit against their limited conventional options. How quickly could you implement this? 20 minutes to reconfigure the necessary systems. Aurelia estimated. The Varian ships will be in weapons range in 23 minutes. The tactical officer reported. Drill nodded decisively. Do it. I'll buy you whatever time I can through conventional channels. As they hurried back toward the gravity core section, Marcus kept pace beside Aurelia, his expression troubled. You understand the risks of what you're proposing? He asked quietly. A full neural interface with both the core and my prototype could overload your system completely. I understand, she confirmed, her stride purposeful despite her still recovering energy levels. But I've spent my entire existence being feared for what I am, a genetic anomaly designed for a specific purpose. Perhaps this is that purpose. Marcus caught her arm, stopping her momentarily. This isn't about proving your worth, Aurelia. You've already done that 100 times over by keeping this station functioning. The genuine concern in his eyes touched something deep within her. A longing for connection she had suppressed for years, beneath layers of professional detachment and resigned isolation. This isn't about proving anything, she said softly. It's about choosing to use what I am for something that matters, something worth the risk. After a moment, Marcus nodded his understanding. They resumed their rapid journey to the core section, now working together with the seamless coordination of partners who trusted each other implicitly despite the brevity of their acquaintance. In the core chamber, Aurelia directed a team of engineers to modify the interface terminal while Marcus reconfigured his prototype shield generator to connect with the station's power grid. The modifications were complex and delicate, requiring precision under extreme time pressure. Varian vessels entering extreme weapons range. Commander Drill's voice announced over the communication system. Diplomatic channels have failed. They're demanding the release of their operatives and control of the station. We have less than 5 minutes before they open fire. Aurelia looked up from the modified interface, meeting Marcus's gaze across the chamber. Ready? He made a final adjustment to his device, then moved to join her at the terminal. As ready as we'll ever be. The interface had been expanded, now requiring both of them to establish the necessary connection. Aurelia placed her hands on the primary contact points, the golden energy beneath her skin already beginning to intensify in anticipation. Marcus positioned himself opposite her, his prototype device integrated into the system between them. He placed his hands on the secondary contacts, completing the circuit. On my mark, Aurelia instructed, her voice steady despite the enormity of what they were attempting. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The connection surged into being with a blinding flash of combined energies, Aurelia's golden aura merging with the blue field of Marcus's technology. The sensation was unlike anything she had experienced before, a fusion of biological and technological forces that expanded her awareness to encompass the entire station. Through the interface, she could sense every gravity field, every power conduit, every structural component of Nexus 7. More surprisingly, she could also sense Marcus, not just his physical presence, but the essence of his consciousness as the shared energies bridged the gap between their disparate physiologies. Together, they extended the combined field outward, layer by layer, until it enveloped the entire station in a shimmering bubble of golden blue energy. The strain was immense, drawing heavily on Aurelia's innate abilities and pushing Marcus's technology beyond its design parameters. Varian vessels opening fire, came the distant report from operations. Multiple heavy weapons targeting station shields. The first impacts registered as ripples in the extended field, powerful enough to be felt, but insufficient to penetrate the combined protection they had created. Aurelia adjusted the gravitational harmonics, reinforcing areas under direct attack while maintaining overall field integrity. Through their shared consciousness, she felt Marcus's amazement at what they were accomplishing, along with his concern for the toll it was taking on her system. The golden energy flowing through her body was now pulsing at frequencies that bordered on dangerous. Her modified physiology pushed to its absolute limits. They're escalating, Commander Drill reported, launching some kind of gravitational disruptor torpedoes. Impact in 30 seconds. Aurelia sensed the approaching weapons, specialized projectiles designed to create localized distortions in gravitational fields. Against conventional shields, they would have been devastating. Against the hybrid field she and Marcus had generated, their effectiveness remained unknown. We need to adjust the field harmonics. She communicated directly through their connection, words unnecessary in their shared awareness. Counter-phase the incoming disruption waves. Marcus understood immediately, his consciousness working in perfect synchrony with hers to recalibrate the shield's resonance. The golden-blue energy rippled and shifted, its pattern becoming more complex as they prepared to meet the specialized attack. The disruptor torpedoes struck the shield simultaneously, their gravitational payloads detonating in a cascading wave of spatial distortion. For a heart-stopping moment, Aurelia felt the field waver, gaps forming in their protective bubble as the conflicting gravitational forces battled for dominance. Then, drawing on reserves of strength she hadn't known she possessed, she poured more of her essence into the connection. The golden energy suffusing her body flared to unprecedented brightness, matched by an answering surge from Marcus's technology. The shield stabilized, then strengthened, absorbing and neutralizing the disruptor effects. Through their shared awareness, Aurelia and Marcus extended the field further, pushing it outward toward the attacking vessels themselves. What happened next was not an attack in the conventional sense. Rather than deploying offensive energy, they created a precisely calibrated gravitational envelope around each Varian ship, not damaging them, but making it impossible for their weapons to function properly or their engines to maintain position. Incredible! Commander Drill's voice came through the communication system. The Varian vessels are being pushed back, their weapons inactive. Whatever you two are doing, it's working. The victory came at a cost. Aurelia could feel her physical form beginning to fail under the unprecedented energy discharge. Her neural pathways, though designed for gravitational manipulation, were never intended to channel power at this magnitude. Marcus sensed her distress through their connection, his consciousness reaching out to support hers. "We need to disengage," his thoughts conveyed. "You're burning out." "Not yet," she insisted. "We need to maintain the field until they withdraw completely." For 3 more agonizing minutes, they held the expanded shield, forcing the Varian vessels farther from the station until, finally, the attackers activated their jump drives and disappeared into faster-than-light travel. Only then did Aurelia allow the connection to fade, the golden-blue energy field contracting gradually back to the station perimeter, then disappearing entirely as she and Marcus disengaged from the interface. The sudden severance of their shared consciousness left her disoriented and weakened. She would have collapsed if not for Marcus catching her, his arms supporting her as her legs gave way. "Medical team to Core Section Alpha, immediately," he called into his communication device, lowering her gently to the floor. "Did it work?" Aurelia asked, her voice barely audible, the golden energy beneath her skin now reduced to the faintest glimmer. "It worked," Marcus confirmed, his hand clasping hers. "The Varian ships have retreated. Nexus 7 is safe." She managed a small smile before unconsciousness claimed her, the last of her energy reserves finally exhausted. 3 months later, Aurelia stood at the viewport in her new office, watching as the construction drones completed work on the external sensor array. The Earth-Solarian Joint Research Facility, officially designated as a collaborative venture to advance gravitational technology, unofficially serving as a testing ground for new defensive systems, was nearing completion in orbit around a neutral world at the intersection of 3 major trade routes. Her reflection in the transparent aluminum showed the changes of the past months. The golden energy beneath her skin now flowed in more complex patterns, a side effect of her extended interface with Marcus's technology. According to the medical specialists, the neural adaptation was permanent, neither harmful nor beneficial, simply different, like so much else in her life. The door chimed softly, then opened to admit Marcus, now officially designated as Earth's security liaison to the joint facility. His diplomatic cover had been partially maintained, though his true role was acknowledged among the senior staff. The last of the core equipment has arrived, he reported, moving to stand beside her at the viewport. Dr. Terran sends his compliments on the facility design and promises the Solarian contingent will be fully staffed by next week. Aurelia raised an eyebrow ridge at the mention of her former antagonist. And how is our newly appointed liaison finding his assignment? Appropriately humbled by the opportunity to work with the hero of Nexus 7, Marcus replied with a smile. His expertise in conventional gravitational theory is actually proving useful in bridging the gap between standard applications and your more intuitive approach. She nodded, pleased by the unexpected turn of events. Following the Varian incident, Terran had been among the first to publicly acknowledge her crucial role in saving the station. His subsequent request for assignment to the joint facility had surprised everyone, Aurelia most of all. The universe does occasionally distribute justice equitably, she observed, echoing their conversation from that first dinner, now months in the past, yet still vivid in her memory. And unexpected connections, Marcus added softly, his hand finding hers in a gesture that had become familiar and welcome. Their relationship had evolved gradually in the aftermath of the crisis, neither of them rushing to define the profound bond forged through their shared consciousness. Whatever existed between them, partnership, friendship, or something deeper, it had developed organically, built on mutual respect and a unique understanding of each other's true nature. The enhanced shield generators will be online by the end of the week, Aurelia noted, turning the conversation back to professional matters. Initial simulations suggest a 93% improvement in gravitational stability over standard models. All thanks to the most qualified gravitational engineer in the sector, Marcus said, the pride in his voice evident. And her unexpectedly useful human partner, she countered, allowing a rare smile to soften her features. Beyond the viewport, a transport shuttle approached the docking bay, carrying the latest group of researchers and technicians assigned to the facility. Among them were representatives from 12 different species, including several variants from moderate factions opposed to the extremists who had attacked Nexus 7. The shuttle's arrival symbolized everything the joint facility represented: cooperation across cultural and physiological boundaries, the sharing of knowledge and technology for mutual benefit, the gradual erosion of fear and prejudice through shared purpose. For Aurelia, it represented something more personal as well. For the first time in her existence, she had found a place where her unique abilities were not merely tolerated, but celebrated, where the differences that had once isolated her now served as the foundation for meaningful connection. As if reading her thoughts, Marcus squeezed her hand gently. Ready to welcome our new colleagues? Aurelia nodded, the golden energy beneath her skin brightening with purpose and something that might, if she were pressed to name it, be called happiness. Ready, she replied, turning away from the viewport toward the future they were building together. A future where even the most different beings could find common ground through understanding or respect, and the courage to see beyond outward appearances to the potential that lay within.